Pope Benedict XVI kept a secret about Fatima that completely changed our understanding of the apparitions forever. And no, it wasn't about the third secret that everyone knows. It was a theological discovery he made during 20 years as the guardian of the original documents that literally shatters everything you think about Marian prophecies. If you are a devout Catholic and have never heard this, you are missing out on the most brilliant interpretation of Fatima ever made. If you have doubts about apparitions, get ready to discover why this man is considered the greatest expert on Fatima in modern history. Because in the next few minutes, the 4 revolutionary insights that Joseph Ratzinger discovered in the Vatican's secret archives will be revealed, which even Marian scholars themselves don't fully know. And there is a revelation about what he really told Father Dollinger at the end of this video that will leave you jaw-dropped about what has yet to be published. So stick around until the end. Over 23 years as prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, personally analyzing the original manuscripts of Sister Lucia, speaking directly with her at the Carmelite convent of Coimbra, and being the official in charge of interpreting the third secret, one thing is clear. 95% of people, including devout Catholics, have no idea of the genius with which Ratzinger deciphered the true meaning of the Fatima apparitions. In the next few minutes, you will discover the 4 most shocking revelations Benedict XVI kept about Fatima, why he concluded that the bishop in white did not die, and how this changes everything about prophecies, the theological discovery he made about mystical visions versus literal historical events, the scientific method he used to separate symbolism from reality in Fatima, the shocking confession he made to Father Dollinger. There is more than we have published. The difference between those who superficially understand Fatima and those who grasp its theological depth lies in what Pope Benedict XVI discovered during 2 decades as the guardian of the Marian secrets. While millions speculated about apocalyptic catastrophes, Ratzinger had access to the original documents and developed a revolutionary methodology of interpretation. In response to the misinterpretations that associated the third secret with apocalyptic chaos, Ratzinger developed an explanation that serves to better understand and live the gospel. But this explanation contained layers of meaning that were only revealed gradually. Let's get straight to what matters. In 1981, when John Paul II suffered the assassination attempt on May 13th, exactly on the day of Our Lady of Fatima, Ratzinger, still a cardinal, officially became the guardian of the third secret. But he was not just a passive custodian. He developed a scientific methodology for interpreting mystical visions. First, he established the difference between visionary language and journalistic language. Ratzinger explained that the prophecy of the shepherd children about a bishop in white who died of a gunshot wound did not come true because of the power of prayer. But wait, isn't that admitting the prophecy failed? On the contrary, Ratzinger discovered that Fatima operates with a conditional logic. The visions show possible futures that can be altered by human response. In his official theological commentary, he wrote about how John Paul II, after the attempt, recognized in the third part of the secret a symbolic description of what could have happened. But here's the brilliant part. Ratzinger didn't stop at the analysis of the attack. He asked, if visions can be altered by prayer and conversion, what is the true purpose of the Marian apparitions? And he went further. He said the problem is not trying to decipher specific future events, but understanding that Fatima is a call to conversion that changes the course of history. The Virgin does not foresee inevitable catastrophes. She offers opportunities for change. In 2000, when he signed the official theological commentary, Ratzinger established that the bishop in white was an image associated with the assassination attempt on John Paul II, but that the non-fulfillment of the Pope's death proved the transformative power of Marian devotion. But that was just the beginning. What Benedict XVI discovered about the nature of mystical visions is even more revolutionary, and the way he applied this to Sister Lucia's original manuscripts caused internal theological debates in the Vatican. Some thought he was demythologizing Fatima too much. But when you study his patristic sources, you discover something completely different. Get ready for the most revolutionary one. 10 years ago, when John Paul II decided to unveil the so-called Third Secret of Fatima, Ratzinger was asked to write a 13-page theological commentary that forever changed our understanding of mystical visions. Ratzinger was not just interpreting Fatima, he was developing a new theology of Marian apparitions based on decades of study of the Church Fathers and the Catholic mystical tradition. According to Cardinal D. Antonio Marto, Bishop Emeritus of Leiria Fatima, Joseph Ratzinger's theological commentary on the apparitions is the best ever produced. But why such a high evaluation? Because Ratzinger did something never done before. He applied the historical critical method to the visions of Fatima without discrediting them, but by explaining how they work. In early Christianity, he explained, visions were always understood as symbolic communications that require theological interpretation, not a literal reading. When the shepherd children saw the bishop in white dying, they were seeing a conditional possibility, not an immutable divine decree. And here's the brilliant insight. Ratzinger discovered that Our Lady of Fatima was teaching a lesson about free will and divine providence. The prophecies were conditional warnings that could be altered by humanity's response. The solution? He proposed that we understand Fatima not as deterministic predictions, but as divine pedagogy. God shows possible consequences to motivate conversion and prayer. Years later, Ratzinger applied this methodology to other Marian apparitions approved by the Church. Why? Because his goal was never to demythologize Fatima, but to establish solid theological criteria to distinguish authentic revelation from apocalyptic speculation. In 1985, during an interview that caused a worldwide sensation, Joseph Ratzinger made a statement about Fatima that seemed contradictory, but revealed an impressive discovery in the Vatican's secret archives. He said he had read the third secret and that it was religious, not political, that it did not contain revelations about nuclear catastrophes or the end of the world, that it was primarily a call to personal and ecclesial conversion. Look at the details of the discovery in the archives. During his years of access to the original documents, Ratzinger discovered that Sister Lucia had written multiple versions of her memoirs, refining and deepening her understanding of the visions over decades. This did not mean contradictions, but spiritual development. In the original manuscripts, he found evidence that Lucia progressively understood that her visions had a profound symbolic meaning, not just a literal one. She herself had evolved from a more concrete interpretation to a more theological understanding. The most impressive part is how Ratzinger connected this with the Catholic mystical tradition. He discovered parallels between the descriptions of Fatima and visions of saints like John of the Cross and Teresa of Avila, confirming the authenticity through established historical patterns. Revolutionary analysis. Ratzinger concluded that Fatima followed the classic pattern of great mystical revelations. They begin with concrete images that gradually reveal deeper spiritual meanings. But perhaps the most disturbing revelation is about what Benedict XVI never said publicly. In a personal conversation with Father Ingo Dollinger, his longtime friend, Ratzinger confessed, "There is more than we have published about the third secret." This confession was not made during his pontificate, but years later when he was already Pope Emeritus. Father Dollinger, a German priest and former professor of theology in Brazil, confirmed that Ratzinger admitted there is still a part of the third secret that they have not published. What few people know is that this unpublished part is not necessarily another text written by Sister Lucia. According to the interpretation of experts, it may be a dimension of the vision that Ratzinger considered inappropriate for public disclosure due to its specific character regarding internal crises of the Church. Ratzinger's method was always pastoral, to reveal what builds faith, to protect what could cause unnecessary scandal. This explains why, even having total access to the documents, he carefully dosed the revelations. This experience shaped his approach to Marian apparitions in a way that influenced all his subsequent theology. That's why when he became pope, he did not promote new apparitions, but deepened the theological understanding of those already approved by the Church. And now, the story I promised at the beginning. The true legacy that Benedict XVI left about Fatima goes beyond specific interpretations. Everyone thinks that great theologians complicate Marian apparitions, but Ratzinger's approach suggests something very different. Ratzinger transformed Fatima from a sensationalist phenomenon into a model of how God communicates with humanity through history. His discoveries established that authentic Marian apparitions follow identifiable theological patterns. Mystical visions operate with symbolic, not journalistic logic. Marian prophecies are invitations to conversion, not deterministic predictions. The human response, prayer, penance, conversion, can alter announced futures. What really happened was a silent revolution in Marian theology. Ratzinger created the most solid method ever developed to interpret apparitions, combining scientific rigor with authentic faith. The discovery that changed everything. In his later reflections, he concluded that Our Lady of Fatima was not revealing secrets about the future, but teaching how to participate in the redemption of the world through prayer and sacrifice. But there's more. His methodology influenced how the Church evaluates new claims of apparitions. The criteria established by Ratzinger became the standard for diocesan commissions that investigate contemporary mystical phenomena. So, after all this, one thing is clear. Joseph Ratzinger was not just the guardian of the secrets of Fatima. He was the man who transformed our understanding of how God communicates through Marian apparitions, establishing theological criteria that protect the faith from inappropriate speculation. His discoveries about visionary language, symbolic interpretation, and the conditional nature of the prophecies were not academic exercises. They were pastoral tools to help the faithful authentically understand the Marian messages without falling into sensationalism or apocalyptic despair. And perhaps the most important lesson is this. Fatima, according to Benedict XVI, does not teach us to be afraid of the future, but invites us to participate in its construction through prayer, conversion, and trust in divine mercy. If this has changed your perspective on Fatima, leave a comment about which of Ratzinger's discoveries impacted you the most. And if you know someone who is still afraid of the prophecies of Fatima, share this video to show the most solid theological interpretation ever produced. In future videos, we will delve even deeper into the methodologies that Benedict XVI developed for other Marian apparitions approved by the Church. Until then, may Our Lady of Fatima intercede for our faith and understanding.